Hey everyone, Shaun Stevenson here, author of the Throne series, and today I'm back again with another Nightmare Hall book to talk about. This time we're talking about book number 5, The Scream Team. Now, while this book does say it's by Diane Ho on the cover, it is actually by Nola Thacker, who wrote a few entries in the Nightmare Hall series. Most of the books are written by Diane Ho, but this one and book number 2 so far have been written by Nola Thacker. The rest of the first 5 are written by Diane Ho. Now, Nightmare Hall is really a spooky anthology series from the 90s, and it all takes place at this place called Salem University, where there is Nightmare Hall, which is really called Nightingale Hall, but there are some creepy things that went down there in book number 1 and before book 1, and so it became known as Nightmare Hall on campus. There are tons of other places around campus that the characters visit and go to. And in this one, we get to go to Abbey Hall, which is this old building that's not really used anymore except for conferences and things. And there's a gymnasium right nearby. Now, legend has it that the gymnasium once burned down with someone inside. And now people have said that they've seen the ghost of a lady in red who haunts this area of Salem University. And if you see her ghost, something bad is about to happen. Well, our main character, Dell, is there for cheerleading tryouts, along with a ton of other students before the semester starts. And Dell sees the lady in red and is wondering what is about to happen. Or has she seen the lady in red? Is someone trying to play with her mind? Or is something truly evil about to go down, making this cheerleading team known as the Scream Team? Oh, this was so fun. Now, I know that some people say that Nola Thacker is not as good of a writer as Diane Ho, and that the Nola Thacker entries in the series are a little weaker. But I gotta say, I did not find this one weaker than the other books I've read so far. I really enjoyed this one. I read this book so fast. I flew through the pages because I wanted to know what was happening. There is a great mystery here, and I had to know what was going on. You have a whole new set of characters. So this series is really kind of showing itself to be an anthology series that all takes place at Salem University. Sometimes there are different things referenced, but it's never been anything that's like, oh, that's a major plot point you just spoiled from that previous book. So far, it's really been like, oh, yeah, Nightmare Hall, that's a place that's on campus. Or, oh, yeah, Robert Q. Parker, that's a person on campus. And so there's like cameos from different books that show up in this book. But it's kind of like Fear Street, where you can really read them in any order. It does not really matter. Even though these ones are all numbered and have like a sequence, so to speak, you could read them in any order. It doesn't matter. So far, I haven't been lost or anything like that. I mean, I have been reading them in order, but I have not been, I've never thought, oh, if I had read this book first, I would have been so lost. I would have been like, oh yeah, okay, this is a Salem University where spooky stuff sometimes happens. Sometimes there's thriller things. And here we go. Like I said, you have a great mystery in this book. There are some very intense things that are going on, and Dell is wondering, what is real? What is fake? What's actually happening right now? And can I trust what I'm seeing? And it's an interesting thing to pair with cheerleading tryouts, because you have a situation where you have the coach and the head cheerleader saying like, hey, we're watching to see how you do, see if you're going to be a good fit for the team, because we know you might be able to come here and like kind of fake your way through it, but we're looking for the people who are going to make the team and make the team a good team. And so it's kind of an interesting thing to pair up with this, where you have this situation where people are all like watching different people, seeing what people are doing, and then you have a situation where Dell is watching people and seeing what people are doing and wondering if there really is a ghost, and if a ghost is warning her about something terrible that's about to happen. And I think what's fun about this book is you have a pins and needles kind of situation. Throughout the whole book, you are just sitting there like, oh, is this going to be the bad thing that's going to happen? And there are a lot of intense sequences throughout the book, but it is leading up to a climax that I loved. It was so fun. And again, I love that in this book, all the pieces to solve the mystery are right in front of your face. If you are paying attention to the characters, to what they're saying, to who's doing what, you can piece together who's behind it all at the end. And I loved that aspect of this book. Again, I feel like these are just such well-written, really fun mysteries that have this great horror element to them. Now, I will say, I've been talking about this as I review these books, and definitely check out my other reviews of the other Nightmare Hall books so far. I've done the first 4 so far. This is now book number 5, and don't worry, I'm going to keep reading these. But I will say that some of these books are straight up just thrillers, where it's like a thriller of some kind, where, you know, you have a person who's behind it all, etc. There's no supernatural elements going on. And then you've had some of these which have had a supernatural element so far. So like book 1 and 4 both had a supernatural element, and book 2 and 3 both were straight up thrillers. This one, I'm not going to say there was a supernatural element, because that's part of the mystery. And I don't want to tell you yes or no, just know that either one is possible so far in this series. And I really, really enjoyed that. I thought I was like on the edge of my seat reading this, kind of guessing like what's going on, like what's happening. You also have some great characters. I actually think this one has some of the strongest side characters so far in any book. I can see some of the like building blocks now that I've read 5 of these. You have kind of a main character who's a girl who is going to Salem University, who is a little bit insecure, kind of wondering about life. That's usually the kind of main character that these books has, which, I mean, that kind of a setup makes for a good horror protagonist, because you have someone who is a little paranoid and a little curious about what's actually going on. And you have to have a person like that in order to explore it as the reader going into the book. And you also have often in the background of these books, there's some like jock guys who are just kind of like nice guys. There's some jock guys who are jerks. You have some of those typical sorts of characters. But then this book had some side characters who were super interesting. There was a girl named Mojo. You also had Marla. You have Susan Worth, who's really interesting too. And the whole time I was like, what is going on with Susan Worth? And are we going to come back to her in another book? Because I would like to know more, please, because you dropped breadcrumbs and I would like to know more about this. And so you have some great side characters this time around that really add some extra just interesting facets to this book. And I really, really enjoyed that. I think, you know, as far as character growth, these are not books you come to for a deep character study. Like, I think sometimes the main characters kind of do have an arc of some kind, but these are not going to be the books where you're getting this deep study of a character who's going through things in their life and they're exploring themselves at Salem University. Not this kind of book. Not this kind of book. This is just a straightforward, there's a thriller, there's a mystery, there's some supernatural stuff maybe going on, and you're trying to solve what's going on and see who's behind it, or what's behind it. But it was just so fun. I, again, had another great time reading this book. We explore some new areas of Salem University, which I think is always fun, and it was just so fun to read. So at the end of the day, I would definitely give the Scream Team a 5 out of 5. I really loved this one. I have been enjoying almost all of these, and this one was no exception. I just really, really enjoyed this book and as another entry in the series, and I cannot wait to keep reading more of these to see what the rest of them are like. So if you are into thrillers, mysteries, you like a supernatural element to your mystery or a thriller, like a horror kind of setup vibe, these are great. Especially if you're kind of done with some like high schoolers for a while, like you've been reading maybe some YA in this genre from the 90s, like in Fear Street or Christopher Pike, and you want something a little bit different. These are a little different because the characters are a little bit older. So you kind of have some different things going on than the typical high school kind of stuff that's taking place, which I appreciate, the palate cleanser that it is, that it's a little different than those books and has, I mean, not that Christopher Pike is really similar to anything really, because the more books of his that I've read, the more I'm like, what on earth? but I'm here for it. So until next time, everybody, keep reading. Bye.